Just gone 24 minutes past 8 in Johannesburg, South Africa this morning. Now, consumers, including professionals such as lawyers and doctors, are apparently turning to debt review as a means to survive, as a means to survive this economic crisis. Approximately 1.4 to 3 million jobs stand to be lost. And I'm joined now online by Neil Roots. He is the Chief Executive of Debt Rescue. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right, so we have this situation that we are facing as a country. I think there are many other places in the world in a similar circumstance. But what is the reality for South Africa right now?
Yes, this is felt all over the world, but South Africans have unique problems, and that is that we were financially distressed even before this whole pandemic hit us and before the lockdown. So that is what is making it a little bit more difficult for South Africans. We've even started seeing that higher income people are now suffering and not getting their incomes and not being able to pay their employees. So it's really becoming a dire situation for South Africans.
When you say high income, personnel or people, what jobs are we looking at, and who's particularly involved here?
So what we've seen during the past couple of weeks is that there's been a lot more professional industries, if I can call it that, applying for debt review. And that includes doctors, attorneys, advocates, biokineticists, physiotherapists, all these kind of people. Now, if you think about it, even general practitioners, because people are too scared to go to the doctor's rooms in the first place. Secondly, during the lockdown, when these people weren't able to operate, they also weren't able to pay their rent and their staff and all these kind of things. So it's really becoming difficult for these people. Now, another factor that influenced attorneys and advocates is the fact that the courts were closed during lockdown, and then now it's very slow to get going, and obviously it's got a backlog. And that just means that it's really a frustrating process to get all your legal documents issued and filed at court. So it's really a challenge in that regard. So what we're basically saying is that this pandemic is hitting and affecting everybody. We recently did a survey at Debt Rescue where we found that 85% of participants, and let's call it in South Africans, were negatively affected financially by this pandemic. Now that's a very worrying statistics, and that's why it's very important for South Africans to do what they can during these circumstances to get themselves out of debt. And as South Africans, we are actually very, very fortunate in that we have the best legislation of its kind in the world available to help people. In fact, I'm referring to debt counseling in terms of the National Credit Act, but in South Africa, we are the only country who can actually place your home loan under debt review. So there's actually no excuses. If you do find yourself in a situation where you have endured salary cuts or where you did not earn an income for a while during lockdown, or perhaps your spouse lost their income, then there is a solution. People must just go for it, and rather sooner than later.
When you say a debt review and people are applying for it, practically what does that mean? What process will the individual be taken through if they do apply?
Well, debt review is a process that was introduced by the National Credit Act, and it's been running for the past 13 years or so, and it's been streamlined over the last 13 years. So what the process entails is that as debt counselors, we look at your financial situation, we look at your income and also your expenses. If your expenses on a monthly basis is more than your income, it means that you are over indebted and you then automatically qualify for this process. So what we then do is we distinguish between your payments toward your credit providers on the one hand, and also your payments toward your living expenses. Your living expenses include your water and lights, your rental, your school fees, insurance, all these kind of food, groceries, all these kind of things. Now, in terms of the Act, you're entitled to spend your money on these things. So that empowers us and gives us the authority to lower your installments that's paid towards your credit providers. And we do it to such an extent that you have enough money to get out with the whole month with regards to all your living expenses, plus then paying off your credit providers the amount that you can actually afford to pay them. And we do that by extending the repayment period of those credit agreements.
And if you look at, I want to go back into some of the studies that you've done around the actual situation that South Africa finds themselves in. One, analyst saying that we probably will be knocked back 40 years in terms of per capita income, taking us back to days like 1981. I mean, is that a reality for South Africa right now?
Well, it's definitely not impossible. It's difficult for me to give you those exact figures because it is speculation. But the reality is South Africans have never seen anything like that. I mean, this has impacted the whole economy. It's impacted all individuals, not only in South Africa, but mostly over the world. So it's really a difficult time for South Africans. And yes, we have been set back years at least. And it's also, this is going to go on for a long time still, because we must remember that during the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot more challenges in the form of price increases. We're seeing the petrol prices also started going up now. And those prices always filters through, or the price increases filters through to the prices of other goods and services. We're also seeing that the interest rates have now reached its lowest point ever. So from this point onwards, it's just going to start going up again. And we can assume that it's not going to take very long before we get to the same interest rates that we had before lockdown. And the reason for this is simple, because we need high interest rates to attract foreign investors. That's the only way to do it. And then the third problem is that we started to see now that the payment holidays that the banks gave are now starting to run out. And that means that the banks are now starting to collect their money. So consumers are really going to feel the pressure right now.
How long, Neil, before you think we can begin to see an upturn? Is there any silver lining to this cloud? And maybe what I'm asking is, how big a cloud is this?
Unfortunately, it's a very big cloud, and it's going to set us back a very long time. It's going to be years before we get close to a situation that we had before the lockdown. But we are lucky as South Africans, and fortunate, like I mentioned earlier on, in the sense that we do have remedies to help people who are over indebted. We have the National Credit Act with debt counseling. There's even voluntary sequestrations if you do find yourself in a situation where you and your spouse lost both your incomes. There's a lot of remedies. People must just not sit still and do nothing about the situation. There is help out there. Contact a debt counselor and they will assist you because it's still going to be tough times ahead. So people must just work with it.
Neil Roots, the Executive Director this morning of Debt Rescue. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.